Welcome. I am Mike Hendricks from SMB Golf. My guest today is Colin Read from Whoosh, and this is the Tech Caddie podcast. Colin, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Mike. Appreciate you having me on here. Listen to a couple of your episodes most recently. Love what you're doing and happy to be part of the show here.
Well, we're really glad to have you. Definitely made some news here recently. We'll get to that. But you and I don't know each other, and I always try to do my homework for these things. My understanding is pretty good golfer and grew up playing golf and a bunch of sports. But walk us through a little bit of your early exposure to golf, and then I know you kind of had a different career for a while, but let's talk golf in the beginning at least.
Yeah, so I'm a lifelong golfer. I actually played at Claremont McKenna, D3 school out in Southern California. But, I'm a lifelong golfer. I picked up the game at 8 years old here in the Bay Area, playing out of Mill Valley Golf Course, little local 9-hole track, fell in love with it. My family moved to Arizona and was a member at Arizona Country Club, growing up. And that really shaped a big part of, I'd say, not just who I am as a golfer, but who I am today. I think growing up in the company of adults was a really important thing for me to do, and it taught me about who I am and those things. But then also I grew up in a very nurturing, I'd say, family environment in that private club scene where I had a lot of great pros and mentors and family in that club that really helped and supported me. So that was fantastic. Became a good golfer, played high school golf. I then was captain of my team, went to Claremont McKenna, was a 2-time All-American and captain of that team as well. And I actually even tried going pro for a minute afterwards, but my short game is terrible, and that was short-lived. I still continue to play at very high amateur level, USAMs and those types of things. But by 2006, I realized, golf probably was not the full-time career. The PGA Tour felt a little bit difficult and really started going into the business world. And my first company was a company called Ecotality. We did charging stations for electric cars. We were really, really successful. We were able to build the largest charging network to date, got acquired by ABB. After that, went on to found a company, be on the founding team of a company called Reserve, which became Rezzy, the fine dining table management solution. I was a VC for a minute, and unfortunately, I love to build companies, not just invest. Then my last company was acquired by Facebook, and we really, at that point, had the opportunity to say, what do we want to build next? And for me, I'm a dad of, yeah, go ahead.
At Claremont, did you get exposed to entrepreneurship, or how do you think that became part of your life?
My father was a lifelong entrepreneur. He's always kind of built and sold companies. So it's always been in my DNA to realize, I don't see myself spending 30 years at one organization. And I'd say Claremont specifically was a really, really entrepreneurial piece. But I think my entrepreneurship comes from my dad, most importantly, right? And how he was able to craft out different types of careers. Claremont, though, if you look at the golf team, some of our past captains are Henry Kravis and Drucker and all those types of guys, right?
Yeah.
And so you look at what they've built, and I think when you get into a smaller art school that is really ambitious, ambition surrounds you and creativity surrounds you, and I think that starts to create the impetus for that next generation, that diaspora of that college. And we've had a lot of really good founders that came out. Justin Kahn from Cruise Automotive came for us. We've had Lon Starkley, CEO, who came from Claremont. We've had a lot of great entrepreneurs that came from the Claremont colleges as a whole.
Let's talk a little bit about Reserve, because so in the golf world, there clearly are some connections between some golf tech companies and companies like Olo or Talk or Toast. And clearly that world, that restaurant world, if you will, is a bigger market, right? There's an opportunity for bigger dollars there, maybe bigger average unit volume sales. And maybe you can actually speak to that a little bit, but talk to me a little bit about, and I understand the history of Reserve. Reserve, I think, gets acquired by Rezzy. I think Rezzy has some Vaynerchuk money in it. And I think ultimately American Express acquires Rezzy, if I understand that correctly.
That's correct. Yeah. So I was on the founding team there of Reserve, worked really closely with Garrett Camp, founder of Uber, Greg Hong, and Joe Marchese there. And we really built that up to solve the problem around fine dining, experiences. We really viewed fine dining as the last form of live entertainment for a lot of folks. And as a result, you're kind of putting on this hospitality show, and it's about coordination of everything. It's about coordination of the hors d'oeuvres and when the chef touches the table, and how they even put your plates down only on the right side over your right shoulder, right? That was a really coordinated environment. We ended up getting, we merged with Rezzy, which, as you mentioned, I then became a board observer there when I was a VC. Then we got acquired by American Express, and the company's still doing great. But I think if you look at Rezzy and you look at, Reserve, and you look at the dining world, there's so much similarities to what we see in golf. And I hate to say this, but very much, you look at dining and OpenTable is the dominant player. And as a result, restaurants have to pay for their customers that come in through their own website. They have hot deals, they're bartering tables. There's a lot of things going on there.
Well, let me, are they bartering tables? They actually are trading out the revenue from table 2?
They're going to take more. So it may cost $15, $15 per person if you get a hot deal at some of these OpenTable venues.
Fair enough. Yeah. Of course, hot deal is a big term in golf. So when you say that, It gets a lot of people's attention. So, okay. So Reserve was for high-end dining. And for the people listening, stick with me here. We're going to get to golf, but it's an interesting little crossover here. There is this company, Talk, that clearly was about high-end dining. It's the team that owns Alinea in Chicago founded Talk, and then they sold Talk to Squarespace. You guys ultimately got acquired, like you say, by American Express. And I would assume you would agree, American Express bought Rezzy because of the value of the transactions. Is that a fair assumption as to why they probably made that acquisition?
American Express bought Rezzy due to the value to its cardholders and being able to provide exceptional experiences at some of the highest end premier dining facilities across the country and exclusive experiences for their cardholders, right? And it's very much an amenity as to why you should use American Express.
So actually a different reason than what I suggested, like Full Sail bought Club Profit Systems because of the transaction value in there. But you're saying Amex wanted to provide, and I get it, they have a higher end customer. They wanted to provide some better experiences for their cardholders. Anyway, going back to Talk had this concept when they launched that people should prepay for their tables. They should prepay for their meals. There would be no-shows if you were using Talk properly and that kind of stuff. Were you exposed to Talk? Did you ever look at that model? Did you ever have any opinions of how that would scale?
We did. And first off, kudos to Nick Kokonis. He's built a fantastic company. I know he's also a great golfer. I think he's a member out in Tahoe and Martis Camp, or a few facilities. They built a big business. And I think it's a little bit different for everyone. Your neighborhood mom and pop restaurant doesn't probably need to charge you a set rate before you come, because cancellations happen, and that's the experience and the hospitality they want to deliver. When you go to a place like an Alinea or a Bennu and Cezanne, and you go to these high-end restaurants, a table no-shows, that could be $500,000 of revenue per cover. That's a really big deal. And Talk did a great job of solving that with their capabilities to pay up front for that reservation. So I think there's a different fit for everyone. But I'd say more high level, what we tried to do at Rezzy was really focus on hospitality, where we saw OpenTable becoming a marketplace and a transaction, and really customize, I'd say cater to the mid-market to lower end of that market. There's really big restaurants and tourist places where we see a lot of OpenTable. Rezzy kind of took the stance of, if you know, if you want to go dine at Flower and Water in San Francisco or Carbone in New York or Scarpetta, we're your best bet to go in. And the reason why is that we really emphasized the service. We really emphasized workflows amongst staff, making sure that they knew their customers the right way, that whole coordination of that meal is all in sync. And that was a big piece of what we did at Rezzy and why we were very different from OpenTable. We also believed restaurants shouldn't pay for their own traffic that comes into their website, right? If you're a good restaurant, your name enough is going to be viable to get customers through the door. That's all you need to do. Focus on your own marketing, right? Put that money to work there. And I think now as you move into the golf space, we see that same piece. We're really focused on staff workflows. We're really focused on hospitality. We're really focused on improving the member and the guest experience. And to do that, we think in COVID, golf pros became hospitality professionals. And now it's about that service and it's about spending time there. And our goal is to give them the tools to provide the best service and hopefully additional free time so they go back to being able to hit a golf ball now and then as well.
Yeah, understood. And I mean, listen, just to go back a little bit to OpenTable and Golf Now, both of those companies could see that the fragmented industry that they were in, golf courses or restaurants, those individual units did not have the ability to market maybe as effectively as a larger brand would. And so there was an opportunity to just fill into that marketing void, collect all those restaurant goers or collect all of those golfers, and then essentially distribute them to their customers, right? I mean, that's really what we're talking about. And so typically the first guy in that executes well there is going to stay for a long time and going to do well. But I certainly salute you and a whole bunch of other founders like you. You guys are building technology companies. You're not building marketplaces. You're not building, distribution companies. You're building technology companies. And if the tech is great, and I'm a big fan of what you said about employee workflow, if the employee experience is great using the tech, that's what really matters. And so I'm certainly a big fan of that. So let's talk about Whoosh a little bit. You've raised in my opinion, this is just my opinion, I think you've raised a lot of money. So you're really good at raising money. So I congratulate you on that. But before we get into the money a little bit or the raises, why'd you do it? Typically everybody wants to solve a problem. Typically people want to see a runway and an opportunity to build something. What was your vision? Like what problem did you think you would solve? And how long do you think that runway is?
This kind of goes back to that Genesis story of how I got into golf, right? And growing up at Arizona Country Club. I am fortunate enough to have been a founder several times and had a couple successful exits. Now my full-time job is I'm a dad. And I have two young boys. They're now 11 and 8 years old. And a big piece for me and being successful in my career was giving my kids the opportunities the same that I had. And that is to grow up in a company of adults, to be in that club setting, to do those types of things. So a big piece of what I want to do is make sure that they're a member at a club. When I joined that club, I was first given a mobile app. And then I was like, man, this thing feels like it's 25 years old. I remember clicking on a button and the thing said, please do not click this button again. If you want to do this action, this is your workflow you have to use. And some folks know what I'm talking about. They forget that there's that UI buried in. Don't click here. And then we started looking at the staff interactions of how they were managing that tee sheet, and we saw so much redundant data entry going on. And we immediately said, man, the member experience can be improved. The staff workflow experience can be improved. That's a really big thing, and we now have something here. But I'd say one of the overarching pieces for me is being a father and being able to show to my children, you can do something you love. You can be successful and make money at it, right? It just so happens I know how to build technology companies and raise money in those things. But I think, focusing from restaurants to electrification to 5G internet and now golf, it's showing that we can all be corporate athletes in our lives. We can all be, flexible and adjustable and reactive, and we can all still do things we love and be successful at. So I think that's a big piece for me. But from a business side, it's really saying, let's provide better member experiences, both digitally and in person, and let's have the staff be able to use the same tools to solve that. And the last piece I would mention here, Mike, is when we enter private country clubs, it is perhaps the only industry remaining in the world that has so many different operational needs and workflows that's trying to buy software from one vendor. And they can never be the best at everything. 2024, the cloud's here, integrations work. Let's break down that stack. Let's have this industry work like others. Let's use best in class throughout the facility.
I love the last part there, but I'm sure you have bumped up against this. I think what you say is absolutely right, that you shouldn't have to buy everything from one vendor, et cetera. However, the question would be, is the gate open? Will Jonas allow you to integrate? Will Club Essential allow you to integrate? Because you could make the point, or you could make the case that maybe it's not in their interest to open up. We just did a podcast with the USGA, and we talked a lot about, will the USGA's Deacon data platform be open, or will it be closed? So what's your experience been in trying to work with North Star or Club Essential or Jonas or whomever? How receptive have they been?
First off, I just want to state, I love what Golf Now has done. They've built a great company. Their model may not be everyone, but it's for a lot of people, and they've built a great company. And I'd say the legacy providers have all built amazing solutions, and that's why they have their prominence. I'd also love to give shout outs to Jonas. I think that they really recognize that they're a platform and that they really value that customer experience of building happy customers and recognizing they can't be everything to everyone. So I think they've taken the much more progressive 21st century approach to integrations in a platform. I think there's some other providers there that are trying to build some walled gardens. And that's really, really, really hard because you're not going to be the best. And I think about places like Monterey Peninsula and some of these premier clubs, which they expect from their staff to deliver Michelin quality service, at least in a restaurant environment. There is not a single Michelin caliber restaurant in the world running a legacy club management dining room technology.
Yeah.
Right. We can still get the data back. We can still make these systems the systems of record that host that data. But let's give your F&B manager the same tools that they're using anywhere else to deliver that service, right? And it still works in the club environment. So I'd say the industry is going to change dramatically. I think there's going to be folks that build these walled gardens, and frankly, I'm not sure if they care about their customers and their customers' wants and needs.
Yeah.
And there's these other folks that really believe that, hey, here's a platform. What's the best business sense for me is to make sure my customers are happy and that they'll stay with me. If I'm not going to invest in my product after 20 years, I'm going to lose some customers unless I partner with the right folks.
Right. And I don't want to overstate it. Right. I mean, so you've been in golf business for several years now. You raised $6 million a couple of years ago. You just raised another 10 million. I mean, you're in it, right? You're in it. Am I overstating it, or is it fair to say there's a lot of room for improvement in golf in terms of open APIs and more integrations? Or because I genuinely don't want to overstate it if you don't think it's a problem.
Tons. This has to be almost a mandate when customers ask their software providers, who do you integrate with and what's your stance on integrations? That's important because one system, I mean, just look at a golf shop. I think you had Jason over here from Club Caddie a few weeks ago who said the stat, 12 to 15 different pieces of software per facility just to run golf. If they don't communicate with each other, you're really creating a world of hurt from a data perspective, from a business intelligence, from a staff workflow perspective, right? So This is about making our customers happy. It's building the products that they want and meeting the workflow needs for them, as well as their end customers, the members, the guests, the patrons.
Let's give I want to give a shout out to Scott Pepper. Scott is your CTO. Do I have that right?
Yep.
And talk a bit about Scott's background. And the reason I like to do this, Colin, is we definitely have CTOs that like to watch this, and I do want to give them good content. Talk a little bit about Scott's background and what he's focused on today, what he's building today, and then maybe we can get into the public golf side of things.
So Scott was co-founder of the company with me. We started this together and really decided to build in this sector. But Scott has a very pedigreed background when it comes to both golf and tech. He grew up a great golfer himself. He hits the ball, I'd say, pro deep right now. He's a good scratch handicap still, but played competitively in a lot of med events. And
that's a huge advantage, by the way. There's a bunch of CTOs in this space that's their little gap, is they don't quite understand the course experience. I can tell you how many times we took out technologists at now and we would get them on the golf course just to get them playing a little bit, because you just learn so much more if you experience the game. So that is quite an advantage for you guys that he's a real golfer. But go on. Sorry to interrupt.
Yeah, and I actually would not understate that last statement. I think that's really important. We do offsites. We're a fully remote company, so we do offsites every year at our customers' facilities, just so our engineering team can see the customers, see the facility, experience kind of it from the staff and member side, and that's really critical. But Scott, smart as a whip, Princeton graduate. I think after that he did a internship for the Met Golf Association, where I think he built their website and a lot of their back end tools. And then after that, he really fell into tech. He worked for companies like Home Polish and Hightower VTS. These are big vertical SaaS companies in the commercial real estate space, building world-class software for them. These are billion-dollar companies. It just so happens that Scott's dad is a man named George Pepper, which many people recognize, editor of Golf Magazine for many years, famous golf writer and historian. So Scott just innately is around the game and has kind of an unfair advantage just with his background in golf. But I'd say from a tech standpoint, he's one of the best CTOs I have ever seen. I think proof is in the pudding of what we built. We have built a ton of product over the past 3.5 years. And we've been awarded best in class for the private sector for golf technology 2 years in a row. Our time duration bookings are events and clinics, so we got, best in breed. And now we're pushing the public with Square. And that's a lot to do for any company in 3 years. Again, look at our competition and what they've done. And that's really a testament to Scott,
Well, so the Square integration, as I kind of see it, maybe read between the lines, that's your entry to public. Am I thinking right? Like you felt like, well, if I can knock down a really strong Square integration, then that gets me to a place where I can start having better conversations with public golf courses.
Yes, I think there's a couple things. Again, our mantra is 2024, integrations are here, the cloud's here, integrations work, right? We want every operator to use best-in-class software. When you look across what we'd say the public golf scene, we see a lot of really good tee sheets that built a homegrown point of sale that's very golf specific. When we start asking operators, what's your pain point? I think to a man, everyone used a curse word to describe like inventory week. It's the worst thing they can do. And, I think, you start to pull the thread of what are other pain points. Maybe it's marketing, whether it's data, maybe it's those things. With Square, what we can truly say is we have brought to this industry what we believe is the best in class point of sale across the world that meets 100% of the needs of a golf facility or even an athletic facility. And I think the big piece for us and the opportunity we see is the ability to finally give providers an integrated solution that meets all of their needs, right? So we bring Square in to do online retail, in-store retail, online payments, F&B, voicing, everything under one roof. On the WUSH side, we can handle golf, we can do lessons, we can do clinics, we can do events, we can do simulators. We see 76% of our customers that buy a tee sheet buy something else golf related. And when we started to look at the public space, there were very few, if any, clubs that had that full breadth of an offering. So we think having a comprehensive offering is going to be a big one. Having a cloud-based, tablet-based, most modern solution there is a big one. And then with Square, we really believe we can unlock for the first time in the sector omnichannel data on customers and really give full spend throughout versus having 12 different softwares, 4 different processors, and trying to cobble that data together and make business decisions off.
Well, then so let's just kind of imagine this into the future. So golf course says, okay, we're going to bring on Square. We're going to drop Easy Links and we're going to bring on Square, let's say. Who's going to speak golf to the golf operator from Square? Or do you all actually do the installation of Square so that all the terminology and the lingo is familiar to your customer?
We play a really big role. Like when we say we have an integration, that means that we have support channels, that we have technology integrations, that we can bring in account management from both sides. I hate to say this, especially since we're in a public forum, but in a lot of ways, we almost kind of play that quarterback, almost integrator of record role in helping to coordinate everyone in and make sure that the data all comes out the right way.
It makes sense. I mean, I think that's what I would do. It makes sense to me. Just on a side note, does Square have integrations to the range ball machines and whatnot? Is that already in place?
They do. They have it all, and we're pushing them for even more, which is nice. I mean, the big piece about Square is that they give operators choice, right? If you're unhappy with your accounting solution, there's, I think, almost a dozen that they integrate with. If you're unhappy with inventory management, here's a dozen different solutions for that too. So I think what's nice about them and us is that we're both building this platform approach. I think it just so happens to fit perfectly within this segment. And I think it's something that this segment's been desperately needing is that omni-channel data, better workflow tools, and much more modern cloud-based solutions that work, candidly.
Now, it seems to me, this kind of comes from the marketing piece or the marketing side. You don't typically say out loud, hey, we're a tee sheet. Right. I mean, I've kind of seen people ask the question and then it gets massaged a little bit. But if I wanted to get down to the bare bones of it, and let's say golf, and I totally respect that you have solutions for racket and for dining. But if we just were thinking golf, is it okay if I say Whoosh is a tee sheet? Or do you think that that's not correct?
First off, I'd say we are a hospitality technology company. And what we offer in addition to a tee sheet is a golf operation system. And I
Well,
think
let's
we're
talk
a
about
T
that then.
sheet.
Let's talk golf operations system, because I think people would like to learn about that.
So I think when you look at a T sheet, you imagine that as a very simple booking flow where I make a reservation, it shows up on the T sheet, and I can push to the point of sale. And that's about it, right? Fundamentally, it's a reservation system. I think we built that reservation system, but then we took a considerate view of what are all the areas that we can streamline. At my golf course, I'm a member at Marine Country Club. You know, one of the things that drives me nuts, I hate to say this, Ken Doherty, if you're listening, but is every time I walk in the pro shop, I'm hearing radio communications from outside services that says, Mr. Hendricks, rider, full 18, cart number 36. That then gets marked on a piece of paper, then gets plugged into my T sheet, right? And then I get billed from that, from the point of sale. And what we're trying to do is build that full operating system, very much like Rezzy did and a lot of the other things of here's how you run your facility. Here's how you can have iPads out there. Here's how you can use our system at a place like Whisper Rock at the entrance gate to recognize your members by their profile photos, their guests, check in, to then message to the bag drop that they're on their way, and then go throughout every touch point to be able to mark someone, they're practicing today, they're on the back of the range, you know, no tee times request. There's a lot that goes into just that tee sheet. But then let's just stop for a second and think about staff workflows. It's the Golf Genius integration. It's making sure they don't have to do that manual data entry. It's about prepping for service. Again, we're in the hospitality industry. So what we do unique is at the end of the day, when you close out our T sheet, we'll push charges into the system, is we'll send a report to all the managers. Here's what happened today. Here's who played. Here's the notes on the course. Here's actually some notes that probably needs manager's approval. You know, Mike and Jason got into it on 14th, and you know, a golf cart ended up in the 15th pond. Like that does not need line staff. That's managers, right? Then what we'll do is we'll send out a separate email to the rest of the staff. Here's what's going on the golf course tomorrow. Here's important groups of note and information on booking notes. Here's an email thread for you to start prepare for service, right? So we're trying to say, you know, why are we not a T sheet? We're going beyond just that. We're going into workflow management. We're going into better hospitality tools. We want to get predictive, right? I would love to see Mike Hendricks pull up at the bag drop, and we know your favorite drinks is, you know, Tito's Transfusion, and that you love the left side of the range and everything else, right? Never call you Mr. Hendricks, right? Whatever that may be, we want to automate those tools, and we want to bring those tools used from the best hospitality facilities that are not green grass and bring them to green grass. So hence not a T sheet operation system.
Is it highly unlikely that you would ever build point of sale?
We'll never be the best at it. So yes.
Okay.
I think there's some solutions that we could do to kind of scratch an itch, but when it comes to point of sale, that's your lifeblood. And a public course is doing 70, 80,000 transactions on that thing. That needs to be bulletproof.
Yep.
And I think for us, the reason why we partnered is we saw that there's a lot of gaps in the market today, and we want to be the best. And we're never going to build Square. Like that's just, we'll never be able to compete with a Square or a Toast or some of those solutions. That's not our DNA.
You know, it's interesting you mentioned Toast. I mean, my you know, real business, if you will, my consulting business, and we manage a lot of data for a lot of companies. We see Toast installed. Frankly, at over 100 golf courses, Toast is already installed and being used. Theoretically, you could have an integration to Toast, right? Whoosh could integrate with Toast, and then I believe there actually is now Toast Retail, because of the front of many restaurants is essentially a store. So Toast has Toast Retail. That's an integration I would suspect we would see Whoosh do, or I don't know, an integration maybe with a legacy older point of sale company.
You know, I think the legacy solution will probably be pushed in there as we push into resorts and hotels. I think Toast is one of the best providers out there. Obviously, I have some bias with Square, and I think they're kind of best in breed. You know, being neutral here from a restaurant standpoint, you know, we see Toast, we see Square, we see Spot On as all being really great point of sale solutions. And at the end of the day, we are building an open integrated platform. And if our customer wants to work with Toast instead of Square, well, we should aid them towards Square right now. But at the end of the day, it's about making the customer happy and understanding what's the best solution for their operations. So we have a lot of folks come in and say, we want you for this. What do you recommend on the back end? And we kind of will walk them through pros and cons of different systems because we're familiar with them. And we kind of play that consultative role, right? We really see ourselves as an extension of the team. But yeah, We want to be open. We want to integrate with everyone. We're not planning to build point of sale anytime soon. We want the best in class solution for every operator.
That's great. So the other day we spoke with Dayton Country Club, who's a customer of yours, and they gave very high marks with Whoosh. And the reason I'm bringing this up is because I know earlier I did mention Club Essential. I probably made it sound like, well, if you use Club Essential, this isn't going to work. That's not the case. Dayton Country Club does use Club Essential. They do a download import at the end of the night. They download I'm assuming it's a report from Whoosh, and they import it into Club Essential. So I don't want anybody to think that if you're using Club Essential, Whoosh isn't a good solution. If you ask the guys at Dayton Country Club, it actually is a good solution.
We're compatible with, in the private club space, we're compatible with just about every legacy CMS system out there. Now, the question is on the member side, how great of an experience is it? You know, I think in Dayton, they're using the WUSH app predominantly, right? We have other clubs that use the Jonas app with WUSH, or we'll use WUSH with some of the Jonas features as well. We would love to open up more integrations with the rest of that ecosystem, because again, it's about ease of use for the members and better tools for the staff, right?
Now let's get specific, because you just said using the Jonas app or using the WUSH app. I just want to understand, do you mean specific to the member booking a tea time, or is it something different when you say Jonas app, WUSH app?
Well, we have people that use the Jonas app for maybe dining and for mobile ordering and for viewing their statements. And then maybe just they use WUSH to book the tea times or their lessons or their events and their different modules, right? You have to view these apps these days as Lego blocks. You know, we personally are huge fans of Pacesetter. We think that future-proofs a lot of clubs. It creates a great look and feel. It's very customized. It can plug in a lot of places. That is where this is kind of moving towards, right? And so with Jonas, with Pacesetter, with, you know, a lot of other folks, we can integrate directly in there both ways. We can make that feel very, very seamless. You know, there are some providers out there that are those closed walled gardens that we would like to continue to push. I'll keep sending more emails. Customers keep requesting it. We'll see if and when that happens. But, you know, our mantra, again, is listen to our customers.
Well, okay. So that's a great segue. But just a quick word on Pacesetter, because I don't think a lot of people know about Pacesetter. I've always been pretty impressed with Pacesetter. You want to give us a 30-second overview of what Pacesetter is?
George Stavros over there is one of the best CEOs in the industry. What they've built is a customized solution that can basically ingest, that is the primary app for your club. And they make it beautiful, they make it elegant, they make it luxurious, and they make it really convenient. And what they can do with that app is take in the best elements from Club Essential and North Star and Jonas and WUSH and whoever else you use, and put that into one streamlined user experience. And that's amazing.
The last kind of big thing I did at Golf Now was I started a private club division, and I wanted George to be my app supplier, right? I wanted to white label his. I just thought what he built was really, really good. It just felt great, especially in that private environment. So I've always been a big fan. Now, you just mentioned, hey, I'll keep sending the emails. I want to have better integrations. One thought I have is, and this gets into the fundraising a little bit. Did you do any of this latest round? And this is a 10.3 round, I think. Isn't that right?
Mm-hmm.
Did you do any of this round strategically? And certainly I think Larry Fitzgerald and some people like that are strategic, but maybe in thinking about integrations, like maybe somebody from Battery comes in, and so then it gets easier to work with that larger ecosystem. Like, any thought to that in your fundraising?
100%. As you can imagine, we kind of have open arms to the industry, right? And Jason Pearsall at Tech Caddie said it best. The first time I met him, he said, Colin, you and I have 99% of things in common. We both are crazy enough to start a company in the golf space. So we probably have a lot. Why would I meet you with animosity? Man, I should embrace you and like show you the ropes. And he is one of the best in the business. I love Jason, that Tech Caddie team. Absolutely phenomenal. But, you know, I think as you look at the industry, there are some people that are definitely being a bit more closed off than others. We want to break that down. So what's the best way than saying, why don't you invest in our company? Let's get our interests aligned. I think what you're looking at, though, right now in the golf space, which makes that difficult, is there is not, to the best of my knowledge, a single private tee sheet golf management company in the public space that's private. They've all been bought by private equity or consolidation. Everything's been consolidated in the last 7 years. And in the private space, you have, you know, your big kind of players that are now private equity backed, whether that's Constellation or Battery or those folks, that they don't take venture investments. They take not a small bite, the whole bite of the
Right.
apple, right?
Right.
And that was the problem for us. We want to play well with all, and it would be really difficult to take some investments from one and then play well with others. So we had to stay as neutral as we could. We've gotten, I'd say, the biggest piece of this raise that brings me pride, obviously a lot of celebrities. And there's some other couple strategics that we did not announce, big organizations that will probably come to fruition later, but it's actually our customers. I was shocked by how many of our customers raised their hand and said, "Hey, I just got a call from an investor, heard you're raising a round. Can we invest too?" And
That's
that was
great.
probably the coolest thing I've ever experienced.
Yeah, what a stamp
we
of
now
endorsement, right?
Yeah, we now have 7 or 8 of our customers, all, whether that's the DOG or the owner of that facility, that are now on our cap table, users, and love the product. That's huge for us. And I think that's the piece that's most strategic. Let's continue to build for you. Let's continue to make you happy. Let's make you want to invest in our next round. It's a huge testament to where we've come. And I think that's more important than anything we've got, is that customer interest.
That's great. You do have one kind of standout investor here. So your first round was $6 million by Kraft. And of course, Kraft, for people that don't know, is led by David Sachs. And then for people that don't know the David Sachs name, well, David Sachs is one of the main guys in the All In podcast, which is one of the most, first of all, enjoyable podcasts that there are out there, but certainly successful as well. I wanted to ask you this, Colin. So David Sachs is essentially invested in golf, right? And then Jason Calacanis is invested in golf through Loop Golf. And literally today, as we're filming this, Loop just announced $1 million round. Notify just announced a round not too long ago. I think they might have been, I don't think they disclosed the dollar figure, but there's a lot of big boy investing going on in golf right now. Talk about your fundraising journey and talk about, was there latent demand to invest in golf and there just needed to be better storytellers? Explain that or talk through that with the listeners.
Yeah, I mean, golf right now is booming. Let's be really clear. Golf is booming. We are at the high water mark in terms of play, of participation amongst all age groups. It's a sector that in COVID, people realize this thing has legs and longevity, and it feels like this market will continue to ascend for the foreseeable future. And I think that's fantastic. But at the same time, we also recognize the market's small.
Yes.
There's not a lot of unicorns that have come out in the golf space, and there's a graveyard of people that have tried. I mean, if you just look at the market, we say a lot of stats, right? There's more golf courses than Starbucks or McDonald's, but there's still only 15,000 golf courses publicly in North America, and there's only 5,000 private facilities in North America. That's still a very small market. You have some first mover, or I would like to say inertia has a lot of momentum, and you still have a lot of that in that space, right? And so for us, we have to position ourselves beyond golf. To us, I look at MindBody as a tech company, and I say their wedge was yoga studios, and now they're the de facto who we think about when it comes to just broader activity management, whether it's a bike rental or an ATV tour. So to me, we saw how they entered, as they entered with the yoga studios. And then for us, we said, great, we want to enter the golf and larger activity management space, a hospitality company. We're better to start than the golf side, which is booming right now. And we're better at these private clubs where we haven't seen innovation in almost 25 years. And that's really where we started. And I think the path we took is start off with golf and then expand into broader activity management, lessons, clinics, events, fitness, swimming, spa, wellness, boat racing, shooting ranges, you name it, we can take that anywhere. And if we can build best in class for facilities like the Union League and Olympic Club and Shinnecock and Friars, well, that's going to flow down to the rest of the market. And I think we're doing the same thing as we now look in public, is let's focus on some of the best premier golf courses across the country. Let's then expand into other things. Alt golf, simulators, training facilities are really top of mind for us, and I don't think they're being very well serviced. Then after that, we see a larger tail in hospitality. I like to state, one of my use cases and first class problems is I took my family to Mauna Kea in Hawaii. No problem booking the hotel room for the week, right? Several months out, but I couldn't book golf online. I had to call the shop, or I had to book 14 days prior. I couldn't book my tennis court, my life jacket for my kids. anything they actually advertised, I couldn't actually book. So fundamentally, we see a problem when it comes to high-end reservations, that nexus of hospitality, reservations, and point of commerce. It's broken. And I hate to say it, Mindbody now is almost a 30-year-old company. They're now a legacy solution. It's time for that next wave to come in, listen to customers, and innovate.
Right. You know, when you talk though about Olympic Club, and actually the one on your list of customers that really got my attention was Friars. The average unit volume there, the average sale there is healthy. I don't know. And I'm talking about in terms of Whoosh, but do investors push back and say, but are you going to get that at Joe's 18-hole Deer Creek down the road? You know, like, talk about any concerns you might have with are there enough dollars from each individual golf course to make the business viable?
There is, and it's a huge sector. You know, I think there's news out right now of some of the legacy providers being for sale and some of the valuations that they're at, you know, and I think we will see some additional consolidation in the space. But we're looking at a multi-billion-dollar industry. Golf in itself, you know, it's $108 billion in the United States. It's roughly a $250 billion industry worldwide. It's booming. It's not going anywhere. And for us, we see world there for us to build a great business. But if we're trying to build a unicorn, and that's my goal. My goal, and I'd say any founder that answers this question otherwise of what's your end goal, I'm going to try and build a unicorn until I realize I can't.
Got it.
When I can't, we'll figure out the next piece.
Yeah.
That can't just be in golf, right? Golf now was like that phenomenon that occurred. And I think, you know, we're going to try and chip away at market share at some of those people in public, or complement or potentially work with them. But we have to expand beyond golf to be a successful, viable company. Though that being said, I think there is still plenty of room for companies to grow, and the industry is still expanding.
And I would just say to founders out there, remember, golf now went bankrupt twice. It's hard, right? It takes a lot of different iterations, frankly, a lot of different go-to-market strategies before maybe you find that perfect fit. So no matter what the industry, it's difficult. When investors have said no to Whoosh, why do they say no? Is there a reason that someone wouldn't invest?
TAM, the total addressable market size, is probably the number one thing. Is investors want to do diligence. There's not. GF does a great job. When it comes to market data as a whole, especially private club data, there's a big gap in that. Investors who understand the space get it, right? They understand initiation fees. They understand this. They play in that world. But for a lot of folks that may not play golf, they don't understand the size, the stickiness of the market, and the dynamics. And I think that was probably the biggest issue, was the addressable market size. Yeah. And I think for us, we had to play that story. And it's not just a story, it's our strategy of a hospitality company, activity management. Golf is just a start. Wait till you see what comes next.
Gotcha. That's part of what we do at SMB Golf. We help people understand the TAM and penetration of individual companies today, and that kind of thing. So just predictions, right? What's Whoosh look like in the public space when we get to the 2025 PGA show, and then maybe a couple years after that? Like what's the growth pattern? Does this thing hockey stick? What's your thoughts on how your company, you know, grows and evolves?
You know, we're just starting on the public side, right? And we launched with some great clubs. I think most notably Grass Clippings, which is really innovating kind of how we're thinking of nighttime golf, that par 3 concept in Tempe. I actually think they'll do over 80,000 rounds this year. It's crazy having a tee sheet that starts at 7 and ends at 10 o'clock at night. Yeah. But I think for us, we're going to continue to expand. I think we're going to try and take this same viewpoint and strategy that we did in private. Let's target some premier facilities. Let's go after that. Let's create a name, and let's build over this next year the best possible solution for operators, right? And what we've done in private is we continue to triple and triple year over year, year over year. Now we can start to do that in public. I think another big piece for us that we've alluded to is that expansion into those alternate golf markets. Sure. Training facilities, gyms, what we lovingly call entertainment venues like Topgolf. They don't have software built for them today. And that's a big, big growing sector. And I think for us, a big growth area for us is seeing what we could do in that sector for sims and all golf, but also even for racket facilities and those types of things. So our goal by next year's PGA show, let's make sure we have, 100 public golf courses under our belt. Let's continue to triple our private club base. Let's also have some great proof points and show a lot of traction in building the right solution for those sims and off green grass facilities is a big piece for us.
You know, a lot of people I talk to say right now, sim is their greatest growth vertical. Is that kind of where Whoosh is too, that you see a lot of growth on the sim side?
By volume, yes.
Yeah.
By volume, absolutely. We get more inbound demands globally for simulator management than anything else. That being said, I think this market is early innings and about to drastically change. The price of home simulators are coming down so much that some of the inbound we get of, hey, my guy in Topeka and I just bought 2 sims and I've got a warehouse and I'm going to start a club.
Yeah.
Those days are going to end really, really quickly. And that long tail of kind of those onesie twosies. And I think we're going to start seeing more aggregation consolidation up at the top and maturity in that market. So I think that market's going to change a lot. But again, I think you look at places like South Korea, you look at the Nordic countries where more golf gets played at sims than green grass. You know, that's, to me, with our land and our economics and everything else that we have going on globally, that is where this trend is going to go.
Got it. Yeah, I don't disagree with that. I think that's smart. So if I'm a public golf course owner operator, maybe I'm a general manager, is it as simple as going to whoosh.io and there's a demo request form or something like that? How does somebody get in touch with your team to potentially become a customer?
That's right. Visit www.whoosh.io. You can log in there or send us an email at hello@whoosh. I would flag we are very unique. We want you to try a solution before you buy it. So we'll actually build your tee sheet, your rules, everything else. We'll import rosters. We'll send you guys demo iPad. You get to test it, use it. And part of what we want to hear is, I wish the system did this, because that's how we get that product feedback. It's almost like free development. You don't want to go this because we don't do X, Y, Z. Great, we'll build that. And that's how we start to listen to those customers and do that. But also, no one should make a 3, 4, 5-year commitment without at least trying it first, right? So that's a different approach.
We'll put that in the show notes. We'll put a link, to your site in the show notes. I can't thank you enough for coming on. I think this is really insightful. It's great to have people on that are really good at raising money, because at the end of the day, that is an incredibly important component to getting off the ground. There's a lot of people with an idea. There's some people that can build things. There's very few like you that can bring that together with funding, and funding is incredibly important. So, congrats to you, and thanks for coming on the podcast.
I appreciate that, Mike. I'd say the final note is, as CEO, I find my job really being 3 pillars. It's, building culture, it's defining strategy, and it's keeping the lights on. And it's good to know with 10.3 million in the bank, the lights will be on for a long, long, long time. So appreciate you having me on the show. Really enjoyed this interaction with you today, and continue to do what you do. I love listening to the show and appreciate how you're helping to build the game.